former U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that he will issue an executive order to end the use of mail-in ballots and voting machines before the 2026 midterm elections. It seems that he has fully stepped up efforts to secure the midterms, and this includes promoting a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Through Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska and his talks with European and Ukrainian leaders at the White House, it appears that Trump intends to propose a practical solution based on the current situation, namely, pressuring Ukraine to exchange territory for peace. According to Trump's plan, if Ukraine hands over Donbass, Russia will agree to a ceasefire and withdraw from the territories it has occupied in Sumy Oblast, Kharkiv Oblast, and other regions. The core issue now is whether Volodymyr Zelensky can accept the plan of exchanging Donbass for peace. At the White House, Trump held a one-hour private conversation with Zelensky. Unlike their previous talks, which ended unhappily and were fraught with tension, this meeting was conducted in a harmonious atmosphere. Trump publicly praised Ukraine and expressed recognition for Zelensky. Prior to the meeting, Zelensky presented Trump with a special golf club. It is reported that the original owner of this club was Konstantin Kartovtsev, the Ukrainian soldier who was injured in the Russia-Ukraine battlefield and lost one leg. By doing so, Zelensky aimed to convey to Trump that Ukrainian soldiers have made enormous sacrifices in this conflict and demonstrated extraordinary courage. In return, Trump gave Zelensky a symbolic key to the White House. The exchange of gifts was merely a sign of their friendly conversation. However, Trump did not ease the pressure on Zelensky. According to reports, Vladimir Putin put forward a stance at the Alaska summit: Ukraine should give up all territories in the Donbass region, while the fighting between Russia and Ukraine in the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions would be frozen. Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the issue of territorial concessions would be resolved in the possible tripartite talks to be held in the future, and he ambiguously thanked Donald Trump for providing a map. This map was the one Trump displayed during his talks with 7 European heads of state and Zelensky, showing the areas controlled by Russian troops in Ukraine. Although Zelensky has softened his stance on territorial concessions, he still harbors much reluctance. Moreover, he deliberately evaded the most sensitive issues to leave room for himself to backtrack in the future. The Donbass region, covering an area of approximately 60,000 square kilometers, is the industrial lifeline of Ukraine and contains 70% of the country's coal and iron ore resources. Currently, Russian troops have taken control of most of the region, with Ukrainian forces only holding on to the remaining 6,600 square kilometers, including key cities such as Kramatorsk. For most of the war, Ukraine's official stance has been that its military will continue fighting until every square mile of Ukrainian territory is liberated, including areas occupied by Russia since 2014. Now, Zelensky's softened stance on territorial issues indicates that he also knows it is no longer realistic to regain the controlled territories. Ukraine has basically anchored its defense line in towns such as Kramatorsk and Sloviansk in the Donetsk region, as well as several surrounding cities. Here, Ukraine has built a fortress zone, forming a strategic area about 50 kilometers long. Ukraine has spent more than a decade developing it into a solid defensive position. Over the more than 3 years of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Russian troops have never broken through this fortress zone built by Ukrainian forces, and this is the source of Zelensky's confidence. Zelensky's softened stance mainly stems from two pressures: the strong pressure from Trump and Ukraine's unsustainable state of war. After the Alaska summit, Trump quickly constructed a narrative of himself as a peace hero. He publicly stated that a peace agreement is the best way to end the war, rather than a ceasefire. Although Zelensky harbors much resentment, he still praised Trump's efforts to advance peace and a ceasefire. Leaders of major European countries also highly recognized Trump's efforts to promote a Russia-Ukraine ceasefire and spoke highly of him. This shows that the United States has really gone all out to stand with Russia for the sake of peace. In an interview with Russia 24 TV channel, Sergei Lavrov said, "It is obvious that the U.S. leader and his team sincerely hope to reach a long-term, sustainable and reliable outcome." It seems that Russia also highly recognizes Trump's peace proposition. Given the current situation, even if Trump applies for the Nobel Peace Prize, Russia will support him. Europe has been emphasizing Ukraine's security guarantees and Europe's leading role in ceasefire negotiations. However, this seems not to have been respected by the United States. Europe has always wanted to be its own master, but it still cannot change the fate of being deeply controlled by the United States. After the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Europe has not become more independent. Instead, it has been controlled more deeply by the United States. Ukraine wants to safeguard its territorial integrity, but it can only give up part of its land.